Susan Rogers yawned as she stared at the control panel of the Earth Space Navy ship Defender. The outer solar system patrol was boring, but necessary. Earth had been sending signals to the stars for over 100 years. So far, no one had answered back. Susan sipped her coffee and looked at the stars through the large viewing window. Neptune's blue sphere hung in the distance. Her crew worked quietly at their stations. Frank Miller checked the engine readings. Kate Jones watched the radar systems. Paul Green handled communications. Another quiet day in space, Susan said to no one in particular. Then everything changed. The radar lit up with warnings. A massive object had appeared near Neptune. It wasn't there a minute ago. It was huge, bigger than any ship humans had ever built. "Commander Rogers, unknown vessel detected," Kate shouted, her eyes wide. Susan put down her coffee cup so fast, it spilled. "Battle stations, alert Earth Command." The crew jumped to action. Weapon systems came online. Paul sent an emergency message to Earth. "Wait," Susan said, holding up her hand. "They're sending us something." Paul's console beeped. It's a message in English." The crew fell silent. Susan nodded. "Put it on speakers." A calm voice filled the bridge. "Greetings, Earth vessel. We are representatives of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace and wish to establish formal contact with your species." Susan looked at her shocked crew. This was why they trained. This was why they were out here. First contact. "Respond," she ordered Paul. "Tell them we welcome them and will relay their message to our leaders." 3 days later, Susan stood in a large meeting room at United Nations headquarters in New York. Leaders from every major nation were there. Scientists, military officers, and diplomats filled the seats. They had all seen the images of the alien ship. They had all heard the messages. Now they needed a plan. "Commander Rogers," said President Olivia Martinez. "You made first contact. We want you on the contact team." Susan nodded. "Yes, Madam President. You'll be joined by William Carter, our top diplomat, and Dr. Nancy Fleming, head of xenobiology at Harvard." William was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. Nancy was shorter, with curly brown hair and glasses. They both looked nervous but excited. "The aliens have invited a small team to meet them at the edge of our solar system," President Martinez continued. "You leave tomorrow on our fastest ship, the ESV Horizon." The next day, the Horizon left Earth's orbit. Susan, William, and Nancy sat on the bridge with the ship's captain, Ben Harris. 4 security officers led by Lieutenant Alan Diaz completed the team. The journey would take 2 weeks with their best engines. "What do you think they want?" Nancy asked as they passed the orbit of Mars. "Trade, probably," William said. "That's usually the first thing civilizations want. Or they're checking if we're a threat," Alan suggested. Susan looked out at the stars. "We'll find out soon enough." 2 weeks later, the Horizon approached the meeting point. The alien ship came into view. It was beautiful, shaped like a silver leaf with glowing blue lines along its surface. It was at least 20 times larger than their ship. "They're hailing us," Captain Harris said. A screen lit up, showing an alien creature. It looked like a large bird with purple feathers and 4 wings. Its beak was short and curved. It had 2 large eyes that blinked sideways. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Zilnax, representative of the Galactic Confederation. We welcome you to the greater community of spacefaring civilizations." William stepped forward. "We thank you for your welcome. I am William Carter, diplomat of Earth. With me are Commander Susan Rogers, Dr. Nancy Fleming, and our security team led by Lieutenant Diaz." Zilnax bowed slightly. "We invite you to dock with our vessel for face-to-face communications." The Horizon carefully approached the massive alien ship. A docking port opened like a flower, allowing their much smaller ship to enter. With a soft thud and hiss of airlocks, the 2 ships connected. "Their atmosphere is compatible with ours," Nancy said, checking her instruments. "Slightly higher oxygen, but safe." Susan adjusted her uniform. "Remember your training. We represent all of humanity now. They walked through the airlock and into the alien ship. The walls glowed with soft blue light. The air smelled like cinnamon and sea salt. Zilnax waited for them, standing about 7 feet tall. 2 other aliens stood beside him. One looked like a tall insect with 6 arms. The other resembled a jellyfish floating in a clear container. "These are my colleagues," Zilnax said. "Tekla of the Vrix Collective, and Bubbling Water over Stones of the Medullan Float." William bowed to each alien. "We are honored." "Please follow us to the conference room," Zilnax said. His feathers moved in what might have been nervousness. Susan noticed that all 3 aliens kept their distance from the humans. The conference room was large, with a round table and chairs of different shapes and sizes. The humans sat on one side, the aliens on the other. "We have been observing your civilization for some time," Zilnax explained. "Your television and radio signals have reached our monitoring stations. We find your culture fascinating." "We're glad to hear that," William said. "We have many questions about the Confederation." Of course, the Galactic Confederation includes over 300 species from across this spiral arm of the galaxy. We unite for peaceful exploration, trade, and mutual protection. Nancy leaned forward. "Are all member species similar to yourselves?" The jellyfish-like alien rippled its body in what might have been laughter. "Not at all. We come in many forms. But we share certain environmental preferences. Your planet has been classified in our database," Zilnax continued. "But our scientists believe there may have been an error in your designation." William smiled. "What kind of error?" "According to our records, Earth is labeled as a Class 3 garden world, suitable for most Confederation species. But our recent scans indicate irregularities." Susan noticed how Zilnax's feathers ruffled when he spoke the last word. The insect-like alien Tekla clicked her mandibles. The jellyfish pulsed rapidly. "What irregularities?" Susan asked. Zilnax and his colleagues exchanged looks. "Your gravity, atmospheric composition, radiation levels, and biosphere diversity all exceed normal parameters for inhabited worlds." "Is that a problem?" Alan asked, his hand unconsciously moving closer to his sidearm. "Not a problem," Zilnax said quickly. "And opportunity. We would like to send a scientific team to study your world more closely. With your permission, of course." William looked at Susan and Nancy. Something wasn't being said. "We would need to discuss this with our leaders," William replied carefully. "Of course," Zilnax said. "But first, we would be honored if you would join us for a meal and cultural exchange. We have much to learn from each other." As they followed the aliens deeper into the ship, Susan whispered to Nancy, "They're nervous around us, why?" Nancy shrugged. "Maybe we smell bad to them." Susan wasn't convinced. The way the aliens kept looking at them reminded her of how people looked at dangerous animals in a zoo, with fascination and fear. What were they not telling them about Earth's irregularities? Susan Rogers did not sleep well after meeting the aliens. Something about their behavior bothered her. They were polite, even friendly, but they kept their distance. When the humans moved too quickly, the aliens flinched. The next morning, Susan met with William Carter and Nancy Fleming in the small meeting room on their ship. "Did you notice how they reacted when I reached for my water glass?" Susan asked. William nodded. "Like they expected you to attack them." "And they were very interested in our biology," Nancy added. "They kept asking about our muscle density and bone structure." A message came through from Captain Harris. "The aliens have invited us to their main council chamber. They say they have something important to tell us." The human team prepared carefully. Susan made sure her uniform was perfect. William reviewed his diplomatic notes. Nancy double-checked her scientific equipment. Lieutenant Alan Diaz and his security team stayed alert but kept their weapons holstered. Zilnax met them at the airlock. Today, the bird-like alien wore a blue vest with glowing symbols. "Thank you for coming," Zilnax said. "The senior council wishes to speak with you about an important matter." The humans followed Zilnax through long hallways. The ship was huge inside. They passed aliens of many shapes and sizes. Some looked like plants walking on roots. Others resembled floating crystals. All of them moved away when they saw the humans coming. Finally, they reached a large round room. Hundreds of aliens sat in rising circles of seats like a stadium. In the center was a flat area with a large table. Above the table, a hologram of Earth slowly turned. "Please wait here," Zilnak said, pointing to one side of the table. A group of aliens entered from the other side. They appeared to be leaders, wearing special clothing or markings. At the front was a being that looked like a clear crystal shaped like a person. It floated instead of walking. "Humans of Earth," the crystal being said. Its voice came from a small machine at its side. "I am Senior Arbiter Glissa. We welcome you to the Confederation Council." William stepped forward. "We are honored by your welcome, Senior Arbiter. We look forward to learning about your Confederation." Glissa floated closer to the table. "We have called you here to discuss a matter of great importance. It concerns the classification of your homeworld." The hologram of Earth grew larger. Numbers and symbols appeared around it. "All planets in our database are classified by their environmental conditions," Glissa explained. "Class 1 worlds are paradise planets. Perfect temperature, low gravity, peaceful weather, and few dangerous life forms." Susan watched as the hologram changed to show a beautiful world with gentle hills and calm oceans. "Most Confederation species evolved on Class 2 or Class 3 worlds," Glissa continued. "These planets have slightly more challenging conditions but remain comfortable for most life forms." The hologram changed again, showing planets with different features still looking pleasant. "Your world was initially classified as Class 3 based on old scans," Glissa said. "But our recent detailed scans show this was a mistake." The hologram changed back to Earth. Red highlights appeared over the oceans, mountains, and forests. "Your gravity is 30% higher than most inhabited worlds. Your oxygen levels would be toxic to many species. Your temperature range is extreme. Your weather systems include hurricanes, tornadoes, and lightning storms. Your geological activity includes volcanoes and earthquakes, and your biosphere." Glissa paused. The hologram zoomed in on images of Earth's animals: lions, sharks, bears, even mosquitoes and bacteria. "Your world contains millions of predatory and parasitic species. Even your microscopic life forms are aggressive." Susan heard murmurs from the watching aliens. They didn't sound happy. "What are you saying?" William asked carefully. "Your world was previously designated Class 3, but new data indicates it should be Class 13. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens were talking, clicking, humming, and making other sounds Susan couldn't describe. It seemed like they were upset. "What does Class 13 mean?" Nancy asked. Glissa's crystal form changed color slightly, turning blue. "Class 13 is our designation for extreme Deathworlds, planets so hostile that they were thought to be theoretical until now." Alan's hand moved closer to his weapon. "Are you saying our home is some kind of monster planet?" "Please understand," Zilnak said quickly, stepping forward. "This is not an insult. It is simply a classification based on environmental factors." Nancy tilted her head. "But Earth isn't hostile to us. We live there just fine." "Precisely," Glissa replied. "And that is what makes you exceptional." The hologram changed again, showing human biology. Muscle structures, bone density, immune systems, and brain patterns were highlighted. "Your species evolved to survive in conditions that would kill most Confederation members within hours," Glissa explained. "Your bodies are dense with muscle. Your bones are extremely strong. Your ability to recover from injury is remarkable. Your endurance is—" Glissa paused. "Frightening." Susan crossed her arms. "Frightening to whom?" Glissa's crystal form pulsed with light. "Too many, if we are honest. But also fascinating. A species that can thrive on a Class 13 world has much to teach us." William stepped forward again. "Senior Arbiter, we appreciate your honesty. But I must ask, what does this classification mean for Earth's relationship with the Confederation?" The room grew quiet. Glissa floated back slightly. "That is why we have gathered the council," Glissa said. This situation is unprecedented. Some members believe we should limit contact with such a potentially dangerous species. Others see great opportunity in alliance. The Council must decide our path forward. A tall, thin alien with 6 arms stood up in the audience. How can we be sure they are safe? Their biology is built for violence and survival at any cost. Another alien, shaped like a large plant, waved its leaf-like arms. Their adaptability could be valuable to the Confederation. They could help us explore worlds we cannot survive on. More aliens began shouting and arguing. The room filled with noise. Silence, Glissa commanded. The room quieted. This is not helpful. The humans deserve our respect as sentient beings, regardless of their world's classification. Susan looked at her team. Alan was tense. Nancy was fascinated. William looked worried. We need time to report this to our leaders, William said. This information will be surprising to our people. Glissa nodded. Of course, we will provide all our data for your scientists to review. In 3 of your Earth days, we will reconvene to discuss next steps. As the humans walked back to their ship, Susan felt aliens watching them from every doorway. Did you see their faces when they talked about our biology? Nancy whispered excitedly. We're space monsters to them. William shook his head. This complicates everything. They're afraid of us, and we've barely left our solar system. Susan thought about Earth, its oceans and mountains, its cities and farms. She had never thought of it as dangerous. Now she saw it through alien eyes. A harsh, brutal world that created tough, resilient life forms. We need to be careful, she said. Fear can lead to bad decisions. We need to show them we're more than just survivors of a deadly planet. But we are survivors, Alan said with a hint of pride. And maybe that's not a bad thing for them to know. Susan wasn't sure if he was right. As they reached their ship, she looked back at the alien vessel. Somehow, making first contact had become much more complicated than anyone had expected. Earth wasn't just entering the galactic community. It was entering as the monster in the room. The trip back to Earth was tense. Susan Rogers, William Carter, and Nancy Fleming sat in the Horizons communication room, explaining everything to world leaders through a secure video link. A Deathworld? President Martinez looked shocked. They think Earth is some kind of hell planet? Not hell, Nancy said. Just extremely dangerous by their standards. William adjusted his glasses. They gave us their data. Dr. Fleming has been studying it. Nancy pulled up files on her tablet. It's fascinating. The Confederation species evolved on worlds very different from Earth. Lower gravity, mild weather, few predators, and stable environments. Susan watched the faces of the world leaders on the screen. Some looked worried. Others seemed proud. When will you return? Asked President Martinez. We'll be back in 2 weeks, Susan replied. They want our answer in 3 days. I suggest we bring their representatives to Earth to meet our full leadership. The president nodded. Agreed. But first we need to understand exactly what this means. When the call ended, Nancy turned to Susan and William. I need to show you something. She led them to her small lab on the ship. Screens showed comparisons between Earth and other planets. Look at this, Nancy pointed. Confederation standard gravity is 0.7 of Earth's. Their average atmospheric pressure is 0.8 of ours. Their oxygen levels are half of what we breathe. William frowned. So their worlds are more like living on a mountain? Exactly. And temperature ranges are narrow. Most of their worlds vary by maybe 20 degrees throughout the year. Earth varies by over 100 degrees from coldest to hottest places. Susan crossed her arms. What about the biology part? Nancy grinned. That's the best part. The Confederation species evolved with minimal threats, few predators, minimal disease, no extreme competition for resources. She pulled up images of alien homeworlds, beautiful, peaceful places with gentle hills and calm seas. Earth has always been different. We evolved with large predators hunting us, diseases trying to kill us, natural disasters forcing us to adapt, competition driving us to get stronger and smarter. So we're tougher than they are? Alan asked from the doorway. The security officer had been listening. Very much so, Nancy replied. Their bones would break in our gravity if they stayed too long. Our diseases would overwhelm their immune systems. Our bacteria would eat them alive. Susan felt a chill. And they know this? They do now. That's why they're scared. 2 weeks later, the Horizon landed at the new international spaceport in Geneva. World leaders, scientists, and military officers waited to greet them. Behind the human delegation, a smaller ship landed. Zilnax and 3 other aliens, including the crystal being Glissa, emerged. The aliens wore special suits to protect them from Earth's atmosphere and gravity. They moved carefully as if the ground might break beneath them. "Welcome to Earth," President Martinez said, stepping forward. "We're honored by your visit." The aliens were taken to a special room built just for them. It had lower gravity and different air to make them comfortable. There they met with Earth's leaders. Dr. Nancy Fleming presented her findings to the gathered leaders. Large screens showed her data. The Confederation evolved on worlds we would find paradise-like. Low gravity, minimal temperature variations, few pathogens, and negligible radiation. "So we're the tough guys of space?" asked General Peter Ross. "It's more complicated," Nancy continued. "Earth's gravity is crushing to most Confederation species. Our atmospheric oxygen levels are toxic to roughly 60% of them. Our background radiation would cause cellular damage to 90%. And the microbiological diversity? What we consider normal gut bacteria would be deadly germs to them." Susan stood up from her seat at the back of the room. "There's more. Their data shows that humans have unprecedented physical endurance. While most species evolved to conserve energy through brief bursts of activity, we evolved as persistence hunters. We can literally chase prey until it drops from exhaustion. To them, this is terrifying. And our psychological profile is equally disturbing to them," William added. "Our adaptability, aggression threshold, and risk tolerance are off their charts." The room fell silent as everyone thought about this. "The Confederation is afraid of us," Susan said finally. "Not because of our technology, which they far surpass, but because of what we are." Zilnax, who had been listening, stepped forward in his protective suit. "I would not say afraid. Cautious, perhaps. Your species is remarkable in ways we did not expect." President Martinez looked at the alien. "What does this mean for relations between Earth and the Confederation?" Glissa's crystal form glowed softly as the translation device spoke. "That is what we must decide together. Some in the Confederation see humans as a potential threat. Others see a valuable ally. Your physical abilities would make you excellent explorers of worlds too dangerous for us." General Ross grinned. "So we'd be your space marines." Zilnax's feathers ruffled. "We do not engage in warfare as you understand it. The Confederation has been at peace for thousands of years." "Then what would we offer you?" asked the president. "Your unique perspective," Glissa replied. "Your problem-solving abilities, your resilience, and access to your art, music, and culture, which are fascinating to us precisely because they come from a species that sees the universe so differently." Later that day, Susan walked through a garden with Zilnax. The alien moved awkwardly in his protective suit. "Can I ask you something?" Susan said. "Are you personally afraid of humans?" Zilnax was quiet for a moment. "When I first reviewed the data about your species, yes. You are built to survive conditions that would kill me instantly. Your muscles could tear my limbs off without effort. Your immune system fights off diseases that would destroy my entire species." Susan frowned. "We would never do that. I believe you. But understand, to us, you are like living natural disasters. Beautiful and fascinating, but potentially devastating." Susan looked at her hands. She had never thought of herself as dangerous before. "Is that why you keep your distance? Why you flinch when we move quickly?" Zilnax made a sound like gentle laughter. "Yes. Imagine standing next to a friendly bear. Even if you trust its intentions, you remain aware of its claws." "We're not bears," Susan said. "No," Zilnax agreed. "You're something the galaxy has never seen before. Sentient beings who evolved on a world that should have killed you. Instead, it made you strong. The question now is, What will you do with that strength? Susan looked up at the sky, thinking about the stars and all the worlds around them. Humans had always dreamed of going to space. Now they knew the truth. They weren't just visitors to the cosmos. They were the monsters, the survivors, the Deathworlders, and somehow, they needed to show the galaxy that being strong didn't mean being dangerous. The news spread across Earth in days. Humans were space monsters. People from all countries watched videos of the alien representatives. They saw the special suits the aliens wore to protect themselves from Earth's deadly environment. They heard what the aliens thought of human biology. Some people felt proud. They made t-shirts that said Class 13 Survivor and Deathworlders Unite. Others felt worried. If aliens saw humans as dangerous, what would that mean for Earth's future? Susan Rogers watched the public reactions from her apartment in Washington, D.C. She had been promoted to help lead Earth's new alien relations team. William Carter worked beside her, handling the diplomatic side. Nancy Fleming had a new lab where she studied the alien biology data. "The public is taking this better than I expected," William said, looking at his tablet. Susan shook her head. "Some are. Others are using it as an excuse for human superiority talk. We're tougher than aliens, so we should be in charge. That kind of thinking could cause problems." Lieutenant Alan Diaz, now Captain Diaz, entered the room. "We have a situation. My team picked up some strange communications from the Confederation ship in orbit." "What kind of communications?" Susan asked. "Some factions in the Confederation are arguing about Earth. A group called the Safety Council thinks we're too dangerous to join the galactic community." William frowned. "They can't keep us out of space, it's too big to police." "They're not talking about keeping us out," Alan said quietly. "They're talking about containing us." Susan stood up. "What does that mean?" "Different things to different aliens. Some just want to limit our technology growth, others..." Alan paused. "Others are suggesting more permanent solutions." The three humans looked at each other. The idea that advanced alien civilizations might see Earth as a threat to eliminate was no longer science fiction. It was a possible reality. In space, the Confederation was having its own crisis. The Central Assembly, their version of the United Nations, called an emergency meeting. Representatives from hundreds of species argued about what to do with the newly discovered Deathworlders. Zilnak spoke to the assembly. "I have spent time with humans. Yes, they are physically powerful by our standards. Yes, their biology is adapted to survive conditions we find deadly. But they are a peaceful, curious species. They seek knowledge, not conquest." A representative from a gas giant world, a floating bubble-like creature, rose up. "You say this, but their history is full of wars. They kill each other over resources, beliefs, even minor differences in appearance. What will they do when they meet species they consider truly different?" "All young species have violent periods," Glissa, the crystal being, replied. "The Confederation's purpose is to guide new civilizations toward peaceful cooperation." The debate continued for days. Some species saw humans as valuable allies. Others saw them as dangerous primitives. A few saw them as an existential threat. On Earth, Captain Alan Diaz and his team monitored the alien communications closely. One day, he burst into Susan's office. "We have a problem," he said, his face grim. "A small faction called the Preemptive Safety Alliance is planning to take action against Earth." Susan felt cold. "What kind of action?" "They're planning to redirect an asteroid," Alan explained, showing her the decoded messages. "Not big enough to destroy the planet, but enough to cause massive damage. They want to knock us back to a pre-industrial state." "Why?" William asked, horrified. "They think it's humane," Alan said bitterly. "They don't want to kill us directly. Just make sure we can't reach space for a few hundred more years. By then, they think we might mature enough to be safe." Susan grabbed her phone. "We need to alert the President and the Confederation representatives still on Earth." President Martinez called an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council. Zilnax and Glissa were brought in, both looking disturbed. Is this the official position of the Confederation? President Martinez asked, her voice cold. Absolutely not, Glissa's translation device said emphatically. The Preemptive Safety Alliance is a small extremist group. Most of the Confederation condemns their plan. But they have a ship, Alan said. They're moving to the outer solar system now to adjust an asteroid's path. Zilnax's feathers were flat against his body, a sign of distress. We've sent messages demanding they stop. The Central Assembly has ordered them to return. And if they don't listen? Susan asked. Glissa's crystal form darkened. The Confederation does not have military ships. We haven't needed them for thousands of years. President Martinez stood up. Earth does have military ships, not as advanced as yours, but enough to intercept a small vessel in our own solar system. William looked concerned. Wouldn't that just prove their point, that humans are violent and dangerous? Not if we do it right, Susan said slowly. Not if we show restraint. The president nodded. Commander Rogers, I'm promoting you to Admiral. You'll lead this mission. Stop them, but no unnecessary force. Show them what humans are really like. 3 days later, Susan stood on the bridge of Earth's newest space vessel, the ESV Guardian. Captain Alan Diaz commanded the security team. 5 other ships followed behind them. They headed toward the outer solar system, where the alien extremists were working on the asteroid. We're picking up their signals, the communications officer said. They're at Neptune's L4 point, working on an asteroid about 1 kilometer wide. Open a channel, Susan ordered. The screen showed a strange alien like a large spider with purple skin. Humans? It said, surprised. How did you find us? We've been monitoring your communications, Susan replied. We know what you're planning. The Confederation Central Assembly has ordered you to stop. The alien made a harsh sound. The Assembly is naive. They don't understand the threat you pose. Your kind would destroy the peace we've built over millennia. By destroying our civilization first? Alan asked sharply. A small price to ensure galactic stability, the alien replied. Your world is unnatural. Your species is too aggressive, too resilient. The galaxy will be safer with you contained. Susan leaned forward. We could attack your ship right now. We could destroy you for threatening our world. That would be the aggressive response you expect. The alien's many eyes blinked. But we won't, Susan continued. Instead, we'll simply show you that we're already here. We found you, we could stop you, but we choose to talk first. More human ships appeared on the alien's sensors. They had surrounded the small alien vessel without attacking. Your choice is simple, Susan said. Stop this plan and return to the Confederation or face the consequences from both humans and your own people. The alien was silent for a long moment. Perhaps we misjudged you. Susan smiled slightly. That's what we're hoping to show the galaxy. We're survivors of a harsh world, yes, but that doesn't make us monsters. It just means we don't give up easily. The alien extremists surrendered without a fight. Their ship was escorted back to the main Confederation vessel. The diplomatic crisis had been averted, but Susan knew this was just the beginning. As the Guardian headed back to Earth, she looked out at the stars. Humanity had shown restraint today. They had proven they weren't the mindless brutes some aliens feared. But the galaxy was watching now. Every human action would be judged. Being from a death world was their nature. How they used that strength would be their choice. 6 months passed since the confrontation near Neptune. Earth and the Galactic Confederation had been in constant talks. Sometimes they made progress. Other times they argued over small details. But today was different. Today, they would finally sign an agreement. Admiral Susan Rogers stood in the large hall of the United Nations building in Geneva. The room had been modified to accommodate aliens of all shapes and sizes. Special areas with different gravity and atmosphere allowed everyone to be comfortable. President Olivia Martinez adjusted her formal suit. Nervous? She asked Susan. Little, Susan admitted. We've come a long way since first contact. William Carter approached them, smiling. The Confederation delegates are ready. Zilnax says this is historic. The room filled with humans and aliens. News cameras broadcast the event worldwide. On screens throughout the hall, people could see similar gatherings on alien worlds across the galaxy. Glyssa floated to the center of the room, crystal form glowing with soft blue light. Today marks a new chapter in galactic history. For the first time, a Class 13 world joins our community not as a threat, but as a valued partner. President Martinez walked forward. Earth is honored to join the Galactic Confederation. While our world may seem harsh to others, it has taught humanity valuable lessons about survival, adaptation, and growth. Behind them, a large document appeared on screens. The title read, The Deathworld Accords. Zilnax, now Earth's primary contact with the Confederation, explained the agreement. These accords recognize the unique status of Earth and humanity. They establish protocols for peaceful interaction and cooperation between Deathworlders and the rest of the galaxy. Susan looked at the main points of the agreement. The Confederation would share technology and knowledge with Earth. In return, humans would offer their unique perspective on problem solving and their exceptional abilities for environments too dangerous for other species. Humans will serve as explorers and researchers on worlds that would kill most Confederation species, Zilnax continued. You will help us understand parts of the galaxy we have never been able to study directly. President Martinez nodded. And the Confederation will help us advance our medicine, energy production, and space travel technologies. Most importantly, Glyssa added, these accords establish that biological differences between species are not grounds for discrimination or fear. Each species brings unique strengths to our community. President Martinez stepped forward with a pen. Various alien representatives prepared their own signing methods. Together, they signed the historic agreement. This is not the end of a crisis. President Martinez addressed the assembly. This is the beginning of a partnership that will make us all stronger. The room erupted in applause and various alien sounds of approval. Humans and aliens mingled, talking about the future. Later at the reception, Susan found herself speaking. With a group of alien scientists still fascinated by human biology, is it true you continue functioning without sleep for 16 hours at a time? One asked, a small jellyfish-like being floating in a clear container. Sometimes longer, Susan replied with a smile. During emergencies, humans can stay awake, for days if needed. The aliens rippled in what seemed like shock. And you voluntarily consume capsaicin compounds that cause pain receptors to fire? For pleasure? Asked another, a plant-like alien with blue leaves. You mean spicy food? Yes, many humans enjoy it, Susan explained. Different cultures have different spice preferences. Fascinating and terrifying, the plant alien said. Your species seeks out pain for enjoyment, Susan laughed. Wait until you learn about our recreational activities. There's this thing called skydiving, where we jump from high places and fall through the air for fun. The aliens listened in horror and fascination. One small alien shaped like a furry ball with eyes seemed to be taking notes. Admiral Rogers, called a familiar voice. Susan turned to see Zilnax approaching. The avian alien had spent enough time on Earth to no longer need a full protective suit, though he still wore a breathing mask. Ambassador Zilnax, Susan greeted him. How does it feel to make history? Exhilarating and exhausting, Zilnax replied. I have news. The Central Assembly has approved the first joint mission. They want you to lead it. Susan raised her eyebrows. Me? What's the mission? Exploration of a high-gravity, high-radiation planet in the Proxima Centauri system. It might have valuable resources, but no Confederation species can survive there for more than a few minutes. Humans, however, might feel right at home, Susan finished. When do we start? 3 months. We'll provide the ship and technology. You provide the crew and your unique human perspective. After the reception, Susan stood on a balcony looking at the stars. William joined her. First humans to visit another solar system, he said. Quite an honor. Susan nodded. And all because we evolved on a world that would kill most aliens. Life is full of ironies, William replied. What scared them most about us is exactly what makes us valuable to them. Nancy Fleming joined them, excited as always. Did you hear? They're setting up a special research center where I can study comparative biology. We'll learn so much about how life evolved differently on other worlds. Captain Alan Diaz approached with glasses of champagne. A toast, he said, passing them around. To the Deathworlders. They raised their glasses. To the Deathworlders, they echoed. Susan looked up at the stars again. Somewhere up there, entire civilizations were still getting used to the idea that humans existed. Beings from a planet so harsh it defied their understanding of habitability. Creatures with strange biology and unusual abilities. But now, instead of fear, there was possibility. Instead of isolation, there was partnership. Humanity's toughness, their adaptability, their endurance, traits forged in Earth's challenging environment, would now help open doors to places no other species could go. Being from a Class 13 death world wasn't a curse or a source of shame. It was humanity's unique gift to the galaxy. Not because it made them fearsome, but because it made them able to bridge worlds that others could not reach. Susan smiled. The universe had just gotten much bigger, and humanity had found their place in it. Not despite their harsh world, but because of it. The day Earth was labeled a Class 13 death world wasn't the end of humanity's story. It was just the beginning. ND.